Okay, this is part 2 to where I left off on that last video, because I had some wind blowing and stuff like this. I'm on the hood of my Pooper Trooper. It's badass. Well, anyways, okay, I want to get into what is a public service, or what is public service. Okay, I want to get into this. What is public service? The term is associated with a social consensus, usually expressed through democratic elections, that certain services should be available to all, regardless of income, physical ability, and mental acuity. Okay, now this is important to the American. Regardless of income, physical ability, or mental acuity. Okay, and the term is associated with a social consensus that certain services should be available to all. Okay, that's what is public service. Okay, public service should be available to all. And now even public schools, you know, they try to make all sorts of weird things. They try to even keep parents out of public schools that want to go in and get their kids and get them away from people that are calling themselves teachers when they're really just public service agents under a State Department.
No, even worse than that.
No.
Uvalde type shit down here.
Well, yeah, well, Uvalde type shit happens, but no, I'm just saying. Okay, now anyways, are public school teachers school officials? A school official includes a teacher, school principal, president, chancellor, board member, trustee, registrar, counselor, admissions officer, attorney, accountant, human resources professional, information system specialist, and support or clerical personnel. Okay, so anybody that is employed for a public school is a public school. Is a public school official. They're public school. They are the public agents. If you work for a public school, you are a state employee, regardless of the state. If you work for a public school, you are a state employee, regardless of the state. Are public school officials state agents? If you work for a public school, you are a state employee, regardless of the state, regardless of where you're at. Now, is the Department of Education in the federal executive branch? The current U.S. Department of Education was established by Congress in 1980. It united several existing offices across different agencies into a cabinet-level agency located in the executive branch. Okay, because public services are the executive branch, people. List of federal executive branch cabinet departments. The departments of the U.S. Cabinet include State Treasury, Defense, Attorney General, Interior, Agricultural, Commerce. So, you know, all you Attorney Generals, you ain't the fucking lawyers for the pigs and all the rogue state agents that are violating their oath. You are public service agents under a State Department, under the Cabinet. The departments of the U.S. Cabinet include State, Treasury, Defense, Attorney General, public service agents, Interior, Agriculture, Commerce, Labor, Health and Human Services, Housing and Urban Development, Transportation, Energy, Education, Veterans Affairs, and Homeland Security. So all you people are just state agents that are under executive branch of the federal government and are subject to 5 CFR 2635.101 Basic Obligation of Public Service. Every one of these, any employee under these the departments of the U.S. Cabinet are subject to 5 CFR 2635.101, basic obligations of public service. And when we get you back to doing this, when the government reins you in to doing this, our country is going to be prosperous and it's going to actually be free. Now, the United States State Department in the federal executive branch. The executive branch and the Congress have constitutional responsibilities for the U.S. foreign policy. Within the executive branch, the Department of State is the lead U.S. foreign affairs agency, and the Secretary of State is the President's principal foreign policy advisor. So these states are just under the executive branch. These state departments are under the executive branch. This is what I'm trying to point out. This is what I'm trying to get into everybody's head, that the federal executive branch oversees the state departments, and from the president all the way down to your State Department janitor are under the federal executive branch and subject to 5 CFR 2635.101 as public service agents. Public service is a public trust requiring employees to place loyalty to the Constitution, the laws, and ethical principles above private gain. Employees shall not hold financial interests that conflict with the conscientious performance of their duty. And then what does Nevada say? Nobody should be trying to line their pockets by serving a public office. Ain't that right? Assemblyman Joseph E. Denny, Jr., sponsor of AB 450, at a joint hearing of the Senate Government Affairs and Assembly Elections Committees, March 28, 1977. Nobody shall be trying to line their pockets by serving in public office. So you don't get paid. You don't get paid to serve in public office. Number 2, under general principles. Employees shall not hold financial interests that conflict with the conscientious performance of duty. And $100,000 a year is a conflict with their conscientious performance. They don't use their conscience. They use their paycheck when they're deciding what to fucking do. And we know this to be true. We got video after video. They got a police union that tries to act like the police can have a union. No. They're public service agents. Public service agents under a federal government cannot have a union. That is false. It has been false, and now that we have cameras to prove it, we can prove it, and we will continue to prove it. Okay, what is more powerful, state or federal law? It establishes that the federal constitution and federal law generally take precedence over state laws and even state constitutions. So states, remember, your executive branch agents and agencies, you're subject to 5 CFR 2635.101. And your powers are highly limited by the United States Constitution and the people. Are state employees part of a bureaucracy? Is the State Department part of the bureaucracy? The cabinet departments, the largest administrative units in the federal bureaucracy, have responsibilities for broad areas of government operations such as foreign policy, Department of State, and law enforcement, Department of Justice. Okay? You see, people, they're not law enforcement, they're public service agents. Public service is a public trust. Each employee. They're not law enforcement, they're employee. They're not all these official this, official that. They're employee under 5 CFR 2635.101. And when these public service agents are reminded of this and they get back to their state's ethicals. This is Chapter 1, Nevada Commission on Ethics. This guy says nobody should be trying to line their pockets by serving in a public trust. Now, when you get into this, it says Nevada Commission on Ethics. Dear reader, welcome. This manual is prepared pursuant to NRS 281A 2.290 by the Nevada Commissions on Ethics, and to assist Nevada's public servants in their efforts to preserve the public trust. Getting back to 2635.101, basic obligation of public service under the federal executive standards. Executive branch standards. Public service is a public trust. Now getting back to the Nevada document. Preserve the public trust. It says to assist Nevada's public servants in their efforts to preserve the public trust. The Nevada legislature declared the following public policy in 1977 by adopting the ethics in government laws. Blase. These are for them. These are policies that the Nevada public servants have to follow. Okay, they're obligated. Obligation. It's not a may or a must. It's obligation. They're obliged to do this. A public service is a public trust and shall be held for the sole benefit of the people. A public officer or employee must commit himself to avoid conflicts between his private interests and those of the general public whom he serves. So they commit themselves under oath, not for a paycheck. They commit themselves under oath so that they can avoid conflicts between his private interests, which would be any paychecks or anything like that, and those of the general public whom he serves. So, you know, this is all volunteer, really. You know, you're supposed to serve the public. It's duty bound. It's way worse than what they've been running it as. Now we got cameras to prove that they haven't been running it the right way. In the performance of their official duties, public officers and public employees serve the people of the state of Nevada. As they carry out their official duties, we expect public officers and employees to place, or as they carry out their public duties, we expect officers and employees to place a priority on their loyalty to the Constitution, laws, and regulations of the United States and the state of Nevada and basic principles of ethics, rather than succumbing to the temptations of private gain. The public deserves and should expect no less. So the public deserves you duty-bound public service agents and employees to not succumb to the temptations of private gain, which would be trying to get a paycheck for your for the employment, trying to tell others what to do with their cars, so that you can charge fees. Charging fees for public water that comes out of a public pump that the people paid for with the public tax dollars, it's the public land, the public well, the public water, and the public pump that goes to the public pipes, goes into the public homes, but into their own private homes, which should be the way that the American public service agents should be serving, not disserving. Calling me a customer and not an American is a disservice. Charging me a fee and not providing me a service is a disservice, not a service. Now, when we get into the United States Constitution, this is a book, cool book some cool person gave to me for being cool. For her being cool. The United States Constitution and other American documents. Okay. Now, I'm going to get through this real quick because I'm going to make a different video. Now, Article 1, Section 2. But we're going to go to Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8. Okay? No title. This is Section 9. Section 9. The 8th clause. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. So right here it says, and no person holding any office of profit or trust. So this, under Article 1, Section 9, Clause 8, it shows a difference between an office of profit and an office of trust. Okay? So when you start looking up the executive branch, you start realizing that the executive branch offices are all trust offices and that no public service agent should be calling themselves anything other than a public service agent, and because what they're doing is they're seeking private gain by making you think that they're a sheriff and not just a public service agent, that they have some sort of more powers. Or even with the ones that the state employees that are calling themselves judges. Judge is not the title for them. These are not judges. And then if you ask them about it, they'll claim to be justice of the peace. But they are claiming to be judges on the picture, under the pictures in the hallway. It says judge. There's the picture of the person claiming to be a judge under their picture, and making other people think that they're judges and not public service agents under a State Department. The Attorney General is trying to make people think that they're lawyers for cops and judges and mayors. They're not mayors. They're public service agents. Mayor is a title of nobility given by mayors to show.
Clear down to the clerk.
I want to read a couple of other things because we're already over the 15-minute mark. All right, we're gonna have to have 2 videos. This is gonna be the second video to that one I was just talking about. We just got done talking about judges and mayors and sheriff and all this attorney general that are just public service agents and shouldn't be calling themselves any titles of nobility that would make the general public, the reasonable mind, think that they had some more authority or powers than they actually do as public service agents, not that of judges and all these other
titles,
self-given agency titles. Okay, what does it mean if a statute is overbroad? An overbroad law is one that affects or regulates more conduct than is intended to be regulated by a statute or a regulation. I want to go on to something because where is it? Right here. No. What is an injunction? Where was the one about what was the injunction? Oh, right here. What are injunctions examples? Examples of an injunction. Okay. Overview. Okay, here we go. Overview. A temporary restraining order, or temporary restraining orders, are short-term pre-trial temporary injunctions. To obtain a TRO, a party must convince the judge that he or she will suffer immediate irreparable injury unless the order is issued. Now this says pre-trial. When I was given this, I had not even committed a crime, nor was I involved in a case or a trial. So that's not pre-trial. That's an injunction against my lawful person that I have not even committed a crime, but they're trying to impose an injunction on me. That's unlawful by Nye County, the judge that signed it, and everybody else that has to deal with that case that's a public service agent. The lady that got the TPO against me, who is a public service agent for the state of Nevada, for the executive branch of the United States government, federal executive branch, she got a TPO against me in order to keep me from yelling and protesting and other lawful things that I'm allowed to do. Now, here's one for to keep silent auditor from protesting at a public area. This one's another written up for a public service agent against a member of the public who hadn't committed a crime but had only yelled at somebody, and they had sought all these injunctions in order to keep these people from yelling and protest, which yelling is an art form. They might not like our grievance, they might not like our protest, but they do have to listen to it. It's our right to do so. Okay, I wanted to get into some of this stuff here. We overviewed what a injunction, the TPO is a temporary restraining order, is an injunction that's supposed to be done pre-trial in an event that a crime had occurred, not just to keep members of the public from yelling at their public service agents. Okay, and then they're in violation of this by getting that. They're acting in private gain by getting these temporary restraining orders. They're acting for private gain for agent or agency by allowing an agent to get a temporary restraining order against a member of the public to keep them from yelling at the agent or being in a public place or area. These are lawful activities and they should not ever be violated. It's a violation of their federal executive standard and of the standards of the state of Nevada. They are basically, I found them guilty under my standards. Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, this is a regulation. These by District Court, Justice Court in the Township of Tonopah, Nye County, Nevada, are a regulation. They're a stipulation. It's a injunction. It's a regulation. It's an injunction. Whoever under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. And if bodily injury results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include the use, attempted use, or threatened use of a dangerous weapon, explosives, or fire, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. And if death results from the acts committed in violation of this section, or if such acts include kidnapping or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or for life, or both, or may be sentenced to death. Now, this is a protest because that's what we protested. We protested, Silent Auditor and You Have Rights protested and got these injunctions placed against us by this Tonopah, Nye County, Nevada, by the state of Nevada, by Nye County, by Tonopah. Okay, now protest, declare something firmly and emphatically, I mean. Okay, to protest is to declare something firmly and emphatically in the space of stated or implied doubt or in response to an accusation. Express or object to what someone has said or done. A statement or action expressing disapproval or objection to something, which we objected to 2 county agents. And these county agents ran down to the county and got temporary restraining orders against us so that we couldn't go down there to our public buildings and further redress our grievances of protest. And this is not right. This is actually against the law by the state of Nevada, by the county of Nye, by the public service agents that are acting in these matters. And I just want to point this out just to let people know.